Loves.
What's up, y'all?
Welcome to this moment. We are live on two platforms today because my phone is in commission, but welcome
Out
back.
of commission.
It yes, out of commission for the moment. We thought it was charging all night. It was not. That's okay. It's charging now. All right, so um today is pretty awesome because it is episode 87 of the Holistic Freedom Secrets podcast. And I am so grateful. Today is Cleanse Day. And if you have been tuning into the podcast, then you already know that every day of the work week, we follow a different element, a different prong of our five-prong holistic healing system. And so yesterday was B Day, today is Cleanse Day, tomorrow is Fuel, Thursdays are Move, Fridays are Shine. So this is a healing system that not only helps and has helped me find consistency in holistic health and make all of these like bigger goals a little bit easier, a lot easier, in actually incorporating it into a daily routine and daily habit. But it also has helped others, other working moms, other freedom seekers, and truth seekers out there in our, um, like whether they're past clients or they were part of a past program that we did. This is something that has stood the test of time. If we just focus and honed in on 5 things in a given day, then we can get ourselves closer to our own visions of holistic freedom. Yeah. So today's topic is right up in that alley of cleanse, right? And it is really something that we don't talk about, we don't often look into. But for those of you that are currently on medications, like I used to be on birth control, and so you never really know what exactly is in these, like what the exact effects are of the medications aside from what the doctor tells you oftentimes. And the unfortunate thing about it is it's it's hard for them to even know what are all the implications and the consequences of some of these medications because they often don't take the time or have the time, um, with how the medical system typically runs with insurance, and you have to see so many clients in a certain small gap of time, and yada yada yada, that they haven't read it for your particular medications, or they don't remember, or so on and so forth. So it's really up to us to take matters into our own hands and take a level of ownership over our understanding of our bodies, and how what we're taking in to our bodies may be affecting us. So today's topic is, I forgot, I didn't actually write it out there, but I thought I wrote it down. I didn't write it down there. Oh, anyway, it's basically medication madness, uncovering the untold truth of medications. So meds, pharmaceuticals, what we're prescribed. That is what we're talking about. How we can literally, practically speaking, know what all that means and what's actually what is going on.
And why it's madness. You see, there's a few things that most people have heard but completely underestimate the importance of when it comes to pharmaceutical drug use, right? Legal drug use. And one of those things is directly connected, and the exact same, one of those risks, I should say, is the exact same risk as not understanding the ingredients list of your food. is it's not understanding the ingredients list of these drugs. And what happens is the same thing that happens with our food. So let's say you eat a bunch of, you know, junk food or whatever, you eat chips for breakfast and uh, ice cream for lunch, Pizza Hut for dinner, right? Every day. And this is like your normal thing. Your body doesn't start to react immediately. It starts to react over time and get worse and worse. And then, we develop these things like dementia and Alzheimer's and whatever we develop when it's like past the point of repair. Well, many people are on pharmaceutical, pills and regimens that also have ingredients like those ingredients that are in the chips, like those ingredients that are in the bad lotions and things that we put on our body, and
In the shots as well.
definitely in
The
the shots,
injections.
in the injections. Yeah. Um, a laundry list. Yeah, that they make the injections make me mad. Anyway,
we have to or watch certain things that we say
they know,
on certain platforms.
Um, so I'm gonna introduce you guys to some facts that you may not know as to why these chemicals and these additives are allowed in and remain in our biopharmaceutical products. Bio meaning body and organic material, and pharmaceutical meaning from the pharmacy. Our biopharmaceutical products are allowed to contain these chemicals because of these facts. And then I'm going to turn it over to Coach Tensi. So those of you who don't know, many, many, many of the top companies in the world, as well as the top companies in the United States, are in the big pharma industry. Big pharma funds about 75% of the FDA's drug division budget. They do it through the program called the user fee program. Pardon me. So big pharma is basically the funding for the FDA, which is a regulatory industry, meaning it's an industry that regulates the rules. Agency, thank you. It's an agency that regulates the rules and the laws and makes sure that you're in compliance with the rules and laws when it comes to industries. The FDA has a drug division, which oversees rules and the laws when it comes to what ingredients can be in your drug products, your legal drug products,
and food.
The drug division.
Okay.
And so right, the Food and Drug Administration is the FDA's name. Okay, Food and Drug Administration. So the drug division, the budget for that comes 75% of it comes from directly the biopharmaceutical industry, big pharma. All right. The program, the user fee program, requires a company to pay a fee each time they file a new drug application or an NDA. Okay, not a non-disclosure agreement, but a new drug application. So every time they file for, we're going to release this new drug to the public, we're going to release, Ozempic or whatever it is, they have to pay a large fee. It's about $3 million or so, and this funds the program. So the cultural norms pushing people to live unhealthy lives and eat unhealthy foods and rub unhealthy chemicals on their skin and wash with unhealthy chemicals and harmful chemicals and buy unhealthy chemicals to treat their symptoms are strategically suggested to the public through repetition by those who stand to benefit from our ignorance. Okay, this is the
like just those commercials every time you watch the TV or even YouTube or any other streaming platform for that matter. There's always like a a commercial for the new um, pharmaceutical drug, the new thing that you can ask your doctor for to prescribe for you. And that's on repeat. Like we hear that every time we turn on a device to some sort of streaming platform or watch TV or even listen to the radio, we hear it every time. So this is that repetition,
Yep.
right?
So those are the facts that are most pertinent when it comes to what Coach Tensi is getting ready to get into in terms of uh, different stories that the bad parts of the stories could have been prevented. But basically, the reason why the United States has so many, you know, malpractices when it comes to administering legal drugs to help people in their ingredients is because their ingredients are overlooked by the regulatory agency due to the fact that they are colluding with the regulatory agency, meaning the regulatory agency gets its funding from the companies that it's supposed to be regulating. And so if they want to keep getting that funding, the FDA is a private company. If they want to keep getting that funding, then they, have to keep their mouth shut about what they're told to keep their mouth shut about. This is what collusion is all about. So this is the background to what Coach Tensi is getting ready to really dive into.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so something that I'm doing in the background, which is something that I highly recommend that you do, is because this can be an interactive thing, right? Let's make this as helpful as it can possibly be. This can be an actionable podcast episode. So, something that I just want to say and remind you that you can do if you have access to internet, which if you're watching, you do, right? Is go gather up all your medications, write down what names of the medications that you are looking for, and instead of just leaving it at that and just knowing all of the things that you're taking, start there, but then also take that list of things to you Google. Take it to Google. And I want you to type in the name of the first medication that you're taking, maybe the one that you might be taking most often, or that maybe you've been taking the longest. And for me, it would be birth control would be the type of medication, but what I would type in is the name of it. So
She doesn't
the
take that
brand
now,
name.
by the way. She
Okay.
hasn't taken that for years.
Correct. But I'm just going to use it as an example. The next thing that you're going to type in is
I just wanted to say that, yeah, because you made it seem like you're on that now. I was like, no.
the package insert. So package insert. So the name of your medication and then package insert. And so what we're going to be looking for is a result that is from some sort of .gov. So I'm looking for something that was published by either the FDA or some sort of government site that gives information. Yeah. Okay. So in your search, if you want to refine it and not have to like do all the scrolling and all these things, you can also just type in FDA and .gov. So I have the name of the medication, and then I have the two words package insert, and then I have another word FDA, and then another quote unquote word is dot, the period symbol, and then gov. Okay. So when you search that, one of these things that comes up should be from the FDA website. So look in and see that, and it'll likely be a PDF. So there's a science name to your medication that they gave it a scientific name, and they also have a generic name. So both of them will be on the medication itself. Type in both if you can, or if you just know one or the other, just type in one and it'll come up with one or the other. So what I'm doing right now, I don't know if we can share the screen. Can we share the screen? Okay. Maybe one of these future dates we'll be able to share the screen, but I'm just pulling up for, as an example, the FDA PDF from FDA.gov for one birth control. This one happens to be norethindrone is the scientific name for it, but it also goes by a few other things. One of them is orthomicronor, and these are the birth control pills. They're in tablet form. It's like a 28-day cycle or whatever. So I just want to break down, at least aloud in words, how to go through one of these package inserts. You can also ask your doctor for them, or go down to the pharmacy and ask the pharmacist for the package insert. They should all have access to these things. If they don't, and you just need to know right now, you can also do a search for yourself, just how we did today. Okay. So when you open it up, it's going to open up the PDF, and it's going to walk through different aspects of um, what what different names of it are, what the general use of the how what is generally used to be, what is generally prescribed to treat. There we go. That's a good way to put it. It also will go through how to use it specifically, what the um, like the method of using it, whether it's taken orally or it's some sort of injection, or a liquid that you drink, or whatever, yada yada yada. And then it also goes through some more specifics in terms of, in maybe a study that they did for people, it gets into some juicy sections that often get skipped over. One is contraindications. And that's a fancy word that anytime you see a word, just side note for the people, anytime you see a word that you don't know what it means, I don't want you to brush it under the rug and be like, well, I can kind of guess, maybe context clues. No, because just like how there's legalese and things in the law, it could be the same word. It could be a word person, and you could think of it as like another human being, but person means like all these other things. I want you to copy that word into a new tab in your web browser and type in next to that word medical definition, so that you can see the medical definition, that some sort of, whether it's it's not just like listed out by a blog, a random blog, but these medical journals or these medical sites are actually using for it. So I'm going to use this as a moment to just do that. So medical definition is what you want to type in, just to make sure that you're getting a more accurate definition from the sense of the medicine world. Okay, because what something means in medicine could mean something different in just how we regularly talk and communicate, and how we understand things from a regular dictionary. So contraindication,
Anything that is a reason for a person not to receive a particular, intense, he clicked something,
a particular
treatment or procedure because it may be harmful.
yeah. So if something pops up in the section that says contraindication, because the medical definition told us that that's what it means, that basically it's something that comes up to where you should not be prescribed if you have any of these things going on. So if you happen to have any of these things going on and you are actively taking this medication, then that's like a red flag. That's like a warning sign here. Like, that's something to be aware of. So some of the indications of this particular birth control pill is known or suspected pregnancy, um, known or suspected carcinoma of the breast. And we can look up what that means. I'm guessing, since carcinogen tends to deal with cancer, that this has something to do with breast cancer. Hold on, babe. I'm trying to do two things at the same time. I hold on. So carcinoma, if we apply the same thing everywhere we don't know for sure what it means, we look it up and we type in the phrase medical definition next to it. It means
Cancer that begins in the skin or tissues that line or cover internal organs. Cancer.
yes. So basically breast cancer. So if you suspect that you might have breast cancer, you actually have had it, or maybe in the past or whatnot, then you should
Then
not.
this birth control could be harmful.
Yes. Some other things, like it just continues on with abnormal genital bleeding. So that's even like if you have really heavy periods, that could be a reason why you should not be taking this particular birth control. But funny enough, when people have heavy periods, that's often when doctors try prescribe birth control because they've been told that it will help with that. But abnormal genital bleeding, you should not be having really heavy and painful, excruciatingly painful periods like I used to have. Okay. Hypersensitivity to any component in this product is another contraindication. So if you're sensitive to it, if it like is magnified, if something becomes really big and you're either allergic to it or it just is affecting you a lot in some way.
Go ahead.
Um,
Then that's another reason not to take this particular birth control, because it could be harmful. But also, I think that's if you think about the big picture, a very peculiar contraindication, because it says hypersensitivity to any component of this product.
mhm.
Tensley's going to look up the medical definition of hypersensitivity. And while she does that, I'll just say this. Whenever language like that, by the way, hypersensitivity is an exaggerated response by the immune system to a drug or other substance. Um, an exaggerated response by the immune system to any, quote unquote, any component of this product is very vague language, right? Because
It is.
it could list out ingredients or whatever, but it's just saying, well, any component of this product. And hypersensitivity is something that can be interpreted differently by different doctors or different practitioners or different people, right? Exaggerated response by the immune system. Well, what does that mean in numbers, or what does that mean in numbers for different body weights? So, like, what does that mean? And I think that these word games that they play in these documents and that they play in medical school textbooks are how the doctors end up being duped by the what to think way of education that they're given, and the what to think way of training that they're given, into being so dependent on the system that they fight to protect it. There's a lot of,
The vagueness.
yes, well, the word games in general, but in this case, it's the vagueness. If there's hypersensitivity to anything in this product, then you shouldn't take this product. It's like, well, I probably have hypersensitivity to a few things in the product, or, well, what's in the product, uh, in a full list, right? What's the full list of what is in the product, and anything that's a multi thing, a name for multiple things, like what's in that part.
Hmm. The thing about pharmaceuticals is you will never get a full list because that is proprietary, which basically means that the company owns it and they don't need to share it with anybody because it's like a business secret.
Yes. And so if you'll never get a full list of what's in it, then what does that mean for, oh, well, if you have we have in our literature that if you have hypersensitivity to anything in the product, that you shouldn't take it. But we'll never tell you everything that's in the product. We'll tell you some general information.
Yeah, that don't make no sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like the definition of income is income.
Right.
And sometimes in the tax code, I mean, coming from accounting background, accounting tax background, when I was working in corporate America and things like that, that's kind of like the circular definitions that I would encounter sometimes. So, getting back on track, because we were looking at the contraindications section, which basically means if any of these things you suspect, or any of these things you have experienced in the past, or even in some cases, you might even consider like not taking it if your medical history has had, history of breast cancer in your family or things like that, then you may not want to. But there is actually in these inserts where you can see some of the ingredients in the medication itself, and we will get into. I want to save that for a little closer to the end, but we'll get into how exactly to see with some of the ones that they do list how they would jive with you, right? Um, okay, so
I'm like, we are
you
close
want
to
to
the end.
just okay, cool. So then in that case, we'll just whip the car around and tackle that real quick, and then
Seven
I want to
20.
highlight some of the other big sections that are more important. Um, to me, at least, they're more impactful, and have carry more juice than necessarily looking up the individual ingredients first. But yeah. So something I do want to shout out before we do take it one ingredient at a time and talk through the process of uncovering what exactly is going on with each ingredient that they do list, um, is another section of this particular insert and every insert, which is the warning section. So there's always a warning section, and there's one at the top. So here's how the inserts are structured. They have kind of like a summary, like a short little blurb version closer to the beginning of the insert, which won't often say much. It'll say like the bare minimum. And then later on in the insert, they'll have the more fleshed out versions of these sections. So they'll have a short version of contraindications and a long version of it. They'll have a short version of the warnings and a long version of it, so on and so on. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. So in the warning section, that's something that you want to look into and understand deeply. So it talks about ovarian cysts. So ovarian cysts, so if for those that have PCOS, that's ovarian cysts in the cysts, these little tumor type growths in your ovaries. So
Small sacks of fluid.
yeah, so this one of the warnings of this is that there can be sudden or severe lower abdominal pain, problems in pregnancy, cysts that develop in your ovaries. There can another thing is reproductive organ cancer, so breast cancer and um, ovarian cancer or cancer in your uterus or cervix or whatever, all them things, okay, can develop from taking this. Also, liver tumors can also develop from taking this. And rare, uh-huh. Is it, what are you pointing at?
Well, I figured that's a huge warning.
Yeah, I just said cancer.
Oh, well, okay. Cancer of the reproductive organs in breast is yeah.
Yeah. So I named some of the reproductive organs instead of saying cancer of the reproductive organ. So basically, you're the reason why many people are taking birth control is to not get pregnant. Um, and one of the things that we're often told is kind of like a side effect, as though, it may not happen to you. But this is a legit effect. It's building up. You have to think of medications as two buckets. You're either putting a drop in the health bucket or you're putting a drop in the disease bucket. Okay. So how many drops with this medication are going in my health bucket versus the disease bucket? If there's a ton of drops going in the disease bucket, you need to look into some alternatives, boo boo, if you don't want that disease. Because the longer that you're on a medication, the more amplified the effects. And that's something as a pattern that I've noticed looking at several different of these package inserts for other people's medications and my own in the past. So I'm not on any medications now, thank goodness, but it's a journey getting off of them in a responsible way to where you're not literally going crazy. So diabetes so there's a warning for diabetic women to where um, it affects insulin. So if you're looking to control your blood sugar, this is something that can get in the way of that.
Side effects.
And then, of course, side effects. They say side effects. Some other package inserts use the phrasing adverse effects. It's the same thing. They say the word side effect, but it's really a direct effect. Okay, these are direct effects that come up for people, and it includes headaches, tender breasts, nausea, dizziness, weight gain, acne,
irregular bleeding.
Irregular. Ooh, where do you see that?
It's the first side effect.
The first. Where? Oh wow! Oh my gosh! Irregular bleeding, and that was a contraindication. So it's causing a thing that they say if this happens, you don't need to be taking this. So you started off just wanting to not get pregnant, but you end up with an effect that is one of the things that they say if this happens, you for sure don't need to be taking this in their own package insert from the manufacturer that has been approved by the FDA. Okay, this is not me making things up. This is us reading the actual insert. Okay, so that's a big red flag, right? And it's in some people, it may have caused seizures when they take it with certain other medications that they mentioned. Some medications that treat seizures or TB, that um, it basically you need to work with your
healthcare
medical
provider to
provider.
be
Yeah.
approved to be taking both of these medications at once. And let's be clear, people. If hold on.
Yeah.
If the insert of the drug says, go back up real quick. If the insert of the drug says, this is what we know about taking this drug when people are already taking other drugs, right? And they list the names of the drugs, then that means that they've tested for this. And so let's put it all together. They know that there are chemicals that are toxic in the product. Know that they're not going to get in trouble for having toxic chemicals in the product. And they know that to a certain extent, they have to warn the public and say, hey, if you have these things, then don't take this product. And yet they test people, meaning they administer this drug in various doses to test what the effects are to people that are on other drugs and induce seizures in these people. They make these people, they basically torture these people in these tests in order to get their, or in the process of getting their drug approved. This is the truth about this thing. They don't have these results in the insert without testing for it and knowing for sure. Okay, and the things that they knew for sure before giving it to these other people is these chemicals and this chemical formula that makes up this entire pill, this 100,000 ingredient list chemical formula that we've put into this pill, is full of stuff that the human body in general already does not agree with. And at best, this will band-aid um, a problem, or in terms of birth control, uh, you won't get your super big adverse reactions to it immediately, right? And you'll get them later. But we know that this does not agree with your body. Oh, and by the way, we have to do clinical trials. We have to get people to sign up for clinical trials and give them a little money. And we know that these adverse effects from various doses will show up, and we have to put the adverse effects that show up into our product insert. Okay, it's a very sinister game. It's a very evil game, and they know at the top. They know exactly what they're doing over and over and over again to many, many, many people.
Yeah. Um, and just some of the other things that are mentioned are in terms of precautions are one of them is carcinogenesis, which basically means that it begins. Genesis is like the beginning. Beginning, carcin is like cancer. So it begins cancer in your body. So if you didn't have cancer, you can get cancer as a result of this. Um, Something else that is interesting, it mentions fertility following discontinuation. So if you stop, then you can get back normal ovulation and fertility. So this stops fertility. We know that that's the
What
main
birth
reason
control, right?
why
Hmm.
people take it. But one thing is that sometimes when people stop taking birth control for years, they have not actually had their same level of libido, or they have not had their ovulation is still off, like their cycles have still remain off, and they have a heck of a time trying to regulate their cycles again to even become pregnant, because sometimes people get off birth control and they're like, it's going to be so easy for me to become pregnant again. For a few people, it may be, um, and it can remain a struggle for others. Some really adverse reactions that happen that are in here, and instead of calling it adverse effects, they call it adverse reactions, are again menstrual irregularity as the most frequently reported side effect. So your menstrual cycle, that bleeding again, frequent or irregular bleeding is the most common side effect and direct effect. And adverse means bad effect. Okay. Big bad effect that is most commonly experienced, which it happens to also be a contraindication, which means you shouldn't even be on this. It's going to cause the thing that it says it cannot happen in order for you to continue to take it in a and not jeopardize your health. Um, and then we already heard some of the other things. So some people are even prescribed this to on their weight loss journey, or on their journey to try to balance their hormones. And it literally causes weight gain. It messes with insulin, which messes with your hormones. Because if you remember the hormonal hierarchy from a previous episode, that was one of the things that needs to be in balance. Your blood sugar needs to be in balance. Insulin needs to be healthy in order for sex hormones to be healthy. So with that being said, the last thing I do want to mention before we go is, in order to look up the individual ingredients that may be listed in a particular package insert, you can search the word ingredients.
You forgot the R again.
Oh, thank you.
She forgot the R twice.
Yo, I was not the spelling bee champ, y'all. Don't rely on me to spell the things. Search the word ingredients in the package insert. You'll likely come to where they are listed, and you can copy. Let's say we copy one of these. We're already seeing yellow number yada yada, and we know that these are directly related. Whenever we see a color and the number yada yada, that's directly related to brain deterioration and nerve deterioration. So we're going to type in, ooh, I copied the wrong thing. Okay. We're going to type in, just to do a little control find in that package insert for the ingredient. And then you can copy and paste these individual ingredients, and then next to them, type the words side effect. And when you do that, what will start to come up are different side effects for that particular thing. Okay, so Here's one. So I always like to look for you can look for like a safety data sheet or something like that. Or you can look for even NIH.gov, which is National Institute of Health. It's another government website.
Yeah, and the NIH is something that you can and can't trust all at the same time.
Mm.
They're very official in terms of all of the procedures that they have to go through, but the NIH played a huge role in the misinformation of um, SARS-CoV-19 or whatever it's called. So the NIH, National Institute of Health, as well, I believe.
So there's a whole section on how with this particular thing, you can go through and read through it to find the side effects. There's so much in here, y'all, and if you really took the time to do it, then you'll likely, you're like, my jaw has been like on almost doggone near on the ground looking at some of these medications and seeing, okay, it's used in the treatment of this particular thing, but then it amplifies and worsens you from where you started off. So you can just go down into any particular report and look at the toxicity. And with this one, it mentions like uh, flare-up reactions that people have with other conditions that they may have had, hypersensitivity causing delayed hypersensitivity reactions. And there's that word again, hypersensitivity. So the immune system is like, no, 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 please no. And that's one of the contraindications. It's this ingredient is causing the thing that if you hadn't taken the time to look this up, you would have never put this together. Like I would have never put this together if I had not taken the time just to look up that one ingredient of several. Okay. So this is why it's important for us to look into the medications that we're taking. Oftentimes also, I do want to mention that there'll be in there an adverse effect for if you stop taking the medications abruptly. Like if you try to go cold turkey, sometimes that also causes things like suicidal ideations or different brain altering conditions. So you really need to read these package inserts. And if you don't have the time, then that's something that I geek out on and I take the time to do with my clients when they provide me with that information just to help, give them some more information. And I make a video. So if that's something that you're interested in, then the link in our bio, you can schedule a free consultation.
Or link in the description.
Yeah. Description. You can schedule a free consultation with me and we can schedule a time to talk through what you're currently going through. And if you do choose to work with me, then we can dive into these details.
Yeah.
Dive into these details.
So once again, big pharma
and alternatives.
Big pharma and industry that has direct incentives to make and keep people dependent on their products, right? Legal drugs, funds 75% of the FDA's drug division, the FDA being the regulatory agency that's supposed to be in charge of making sure that the pharmaceutical companies stay in line. And and because of that, the practices of these companies are to poison you on purpose, slowly but surely, make you keep coming back. And birth control is one of the leading funny, untold truths that keeps us coming back through the door of big pharma. Thank you all so much for being here. We out. We'll be here tomorrow.
Love y'all. Take care.